Hi, everyone. My name is Whitney McAniff, and I'm over here at Google headquarters in Mountain View, California to talk with you all about billing and invoicing for agencies on AdWords. I'm the North American Customer Experience Lead, and I've spent a lot of time talking to end clients and agencies about a bunch of different billing configurations and options that they have within their AdWords accounts, and I wanted to take some time to talk about that with you today. This is a live event, in case you can't tell, so feel free to ask any questions on the community page, and I'll make sure to take some time about halfway through and at the end to address those if they do come up. Cool. So we are going to be going back to the basics, and it may seem like this is a bunch of stuff that you guys already know and are super familiar with, but I really want to take the time to make sure that this is actionable and specific for agencies. So really quick look at the agenda here. Nothing that exciting. We're going to go ahead and dive into the different payment processes that you have available to you within the AdWords account. So there are two options available within the United States. There are some different options in other regions, so definitely make sure to check online at our help center to see if different payment options are available in regions where you or your clients are located. But this is going to be US specific here. So we have automatic payments, which is where you can put a credit card or do direct debit on a bank account in the AdWords account, or also invoicing. And invoicing comes in two flavors. There's consolidated invoicing and standalone account level invoicing. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. I wanted to really quick make a note about credit card or direct debit payments on an account, so automatic payments. In my opinion, there's really no reason to be using a credit card on an account if you have an account that's spending over $5,000 a month. Bunch of different reasons for this. I know why people do it. Everyone loves credit card points. It's super awesome when you have a business card that gives you points, and AdWords is a great way to take advantage of that. There are some downsides. In a high volume account, credit card payments can take a while to process. So you actually can ramp up your owed amount within your account very, very quickly, even while we're trying to pull the payments in $500 increments from your credit card or your direct debit. So you can run into an issue of an account actually going dark simply because we can't catch up with the amount that's owed on the account. Same thing with direct debit. Those take even longer than credit card payments to process. So just a quick note, I understand why some accounts like to use credit cards. I don't personally recommend it for high volume accounts. But if you do decide to go that way, you're going to be using what's called threshold payments. And there's more information about this in our help center as well as country-specific thresholds. But essentially, you don't pay in advance. You pay after you reach a certain amount of spend in the account. So let's say you've reached $500 in spend. That's going to trigger a charge through to your credit card there. So just a really quick example of this. The other thing is if you haven't reached a threshold after 30 days, so you have a lower volume account, we will charge you 30 days after your last charge. Pretty self-explanatory there, and again, more information online about that. So the difference between direct debit and credit cards can be a little tricky for some people. Direct debit essentially links the AdWords account directly to a bank account. There will be a test charge. It's a nominal amount, just a couple of cents that we place on the account, just to make sure that we have the accounts linked correctly, and you'll see that come through. I need to confirm it. But you need to be ready for slow processing with these payments. I've seen them take upwards of 36 to 48 hours to push through in certain accounts. So again, if you are in a high volume account, this might not be the best option because you're going to run into an issue where payments are constantly being processed while charges are still being accrued quickly. Credit cards, on the other hand, are slightly easier. I do recommend always having a backup card. Something that I have seen happen quite a bit is when there's lots of charges for, let's say, $500 or $1,000 pushing through very quickly on a credit card, you can run into bank declines, even when there's nothing wrong with your account. So having a backup credit card is a must-do if you are going to go that route. So now we're going to talk about standalone accounts for invoicing. We're going to talk about getting approved for invoicing with Google a little bit later, so don't worry if you have questions about that, we will be attacking it. So a standalone invoice is also known as an ALO, or an account level order. Essentially, it's just one AdWords account per one invoice. Pretty easy there. It's generated at the end of each month, so it's not every 30 or 31 days. It's at the end of each calendar month, and the payment is due via check or wire transfer. Most people who are approved for invoicing have 30-day payment terms, so the invoice is due 30 days after receipt, so 30 days after the end of the month. Some agency accounts have 45-day payment terms, so that's something to keep in mind based on the differing payment terms there. You do need to pay via check or wire transfer. There is no option to pay via credit card or direct debit, so that's something to keep in mind if you're interested in going down the invoicing route. So getting it set up, you have to talk to us. So go ahead and reach out to your sales team or give our support team a call, a chat, or an email, and we can go ahead and put an account on invoicing for you if you've already been approved for it on Google's end. We're going to need the name and address of the legal customer that you have with Google. So that's the entity that was approved for invoicing from Google earlier. And you can name your invoice anything you want. Whitney's Bakery invoice, or AdWords account customer ID 12345. Whatever you want there, there's really no limit. And budget orders. Budget orders are roughly equated to insertion orders that you may be familiar with for billing on your agency's end. A budget order allows you to set start and end dates within an account, as well as specific budget amounts for accounts. It's important to keep in mind that this is separate from any campaign level start and end dates or campaign level budgets, which you can set as well, but this is a holistic whole account budget. This is really nice if you have a client who says, hey, I want to spend, $15,000 in the month of December. Go ahead and set up a budget order to start December 1 and December 31 and make the budget $15,000. You will still need to control the daily account budgets in campaigns, but you do always have the option of doing this on the account level. And you can also add PO numbers to this. One thing to keep in mind is that you know how your agency is billed and you know what you guys need to process invoices on your end. Do you need a PO number? Do you need certain names on the account? Do you need it sent to a certain address? If you have certain restrictions on invoicing and the way that you guys process payments on your end, just make sure that you are letting your Google team know or inputting that information within the AdWords billing system yourself. That way, when we send out the invoices at the end of the month, it's easier for you guys to pay them and process them on your end. So, consolidated billing is next up on our agenda, and I hope some of you are familiar with it. Consolidated billing comes in two flavors. There is a consolidated bill, which is simply multiple AdWords accounts on the same invoice, and also something called consolidated billing. Consolidated billing is the act by which an MCC, so a My Client Center, can be whitelisted to put accounts within that MCC on invoicing at will. This is a huge asset if you are at an agency that likes to bill all of your accounts to your own legal customer. That way, when you get a new client, you don't need to call us, you don't need to talk to Google to put them on an invoice. You can do it yourself. I would say my favorite aspect of being whitelisted for consolidated billing as an MCC is you no longer need to get approval emails for billing stuff like having an account put on invoicing or a budget order. If you're really sick of getting those approval emails, definitely talk to your Google team about getting whitelisted for consolidated billing. It's super awesome. So a consolidated bill, like I said before, is multiple accounts within one monthly invoice. This is really great if you have a client who runs their display in one AdWords account, their search in another, and video in a third. That way you could put all of the client spend on one invoice, so at the end of the month, there's only one piece of paper that you guys need to deal with. It does break down in line items each account spend, so you can keep track of what's going on in all of the accounts. I find it super helpful for instances like that. One thing to keep in mind with a consolidated bill is that every account in a consolidated bill needs to be on the same currency. So that's really the only restriction that we have here. If you're not whitelisted for consolidated billing on your MCC, you can give us a call and we are happy to put accounts on a consolidated bill for you. And I want to take this moment to talk a little bit about currency, which is a constant question that people have, especially if you're dealing with clients that are multinational. So currency is essentially the only thing in an AdWords account that you can't adjust once it's been done. You set currency as one of the first steps when creating an AdWords account, and you can't go back and change it. So if you are dealing with somebody who wants to change the currency in their account, say they want to go from pesos to Canadian dollars, they're going to have to make a new AdWords account to do it. The currency that you set within the AdWords account isn't necessarily the currency that you're billed in, but it does affect how you can be billed. So again, definitely double check the Help Center if you're unsure about what currency you want to set up an AdWords account in. That being said, if you do decide to set up a currency or an account in currency A and have it billed to currency B, so let's say you have an account in pesos and you actually bill it to a Canadian credit card, you will incur most likely a conversion fee on your bank's end. So that's something to keep in mind with that as well. Okay, so setting up consolidated bills. If you want to be whitelisted, you got to talk to us. If you haven't been whitelisted, you can give us a call as well, and we'll go ahead and put all of those accounts on one invoice for you. And it's going to get billed to an existing setup. Once you are whitelisted for consolidated billing, it's super easy to go in and put any accounts on a consolidated bill that you already have created. It's just a change invoice button. And we can go ahead and find further resources if you guys have any questions about that. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and take a moment and see if there are any questions in the community. And it looks like there are not. So feel free to go ahead and send in any as we go on with this hangout. And also if there are any that pop up at the end, we'll go ahead and address those after, if you have any thoughts after the hangout's ended. Okay, so this is the fun stuff, applying for a line of credit with Google. So we have a list of the rough requirements for getting approved for invoicing with Google, and you get approved as a legal customer. Essentially, a legal customer means that Google says, hey, you have a credit line of X amount. You don't have to use it for invoicing, but you can apply that credit line to any AdWords account that you'd like, as long as you get approval. So the three requirements are that the company that is applying for the legal customer has been in business for over a year. You want to be spending over $5,000 a month within AdWords, not necessarily within one AdWords account, but within all the accounts that you're going to be putting on invoicing. And you need to have good credit standing. Now, we don't run a full credit check that's going to actually ding your credit report. It's not like applying for a credit card, but we do make sure that the business is in good standing with that. So you can always increase a line of credit. A lot of people get approved for lines of credit that are lower than they'd initially like. If that happens, you can always discuss that with your Google team. There are options for requesting an initial increase to your line of credit. But for most instances, getting an increased line of credit involves being in good standing with 6 months of invoices paid on time with Google at a minimum 6 months. And there's also routine checks by the billing team. So if we do see an account that is in good standing and is inching towards hitting their cap in terms of their amount for their legal customer, their credit line, we will go ahead and actually automatically increase it for you. We also lower ones that aren't spending the full amount of their credit line. So something to keep in mind is this is kind of a living, breathing process with our billing team, and they're always checking that. And a quick note on applying for legal customers. Sometimes I see people applying for a legal customer with information that differs from their registered business address information. That's one thing to keep in mind, is that since you are about to sign a contract with Google, the information we receive on your legal customer application, so your application for invoicing approval, is going to need to match the business registration information for the company you're applying for. You can find the application form online, or also reach out to us for that if you're interested. But just something to keep in mind, we do cross-reference the information you give us with business registration documents on file in countries and states. And if they don't line up, you're not going to get approved for that line of credit. So just do your due diligence, make sure that all the information that you're providing us with your legal customer application is correct and up to date, and that process will go pretty smoothly. So once you have a legal customer with Google, oftentimes you need to make changes to it, whether the initial billing contact has left the company or you guys have moved business addresses. Super easy to do. You will need to reach out to us to do it though. So there's 3 types of changes you can make to a line of credit: billing contact, billing address, and company name. Also, of course, you can get that line of credit actually raised or lowered as needed, which we talked about earlier. If you want to change the billing contact on a legal customer, all you need to do is send us written approval from an email address with the same @ in the email. Just saying, hey, Whitney@mycompany.com should be taken off of the legal customer, and Kathleen@mycompany.com should be added on as the billing contact on the legal customer. So there you go. Email from somebody at the domain and the written authorization. In terms of making changes to the billing address on the legal customer, it's a little more complicated. You're going to need to prove that the new billing address that you're requesting is the actual registered billing address of the company. So as long as the company registration number is the same and you verified the full legal name and the current billing address that's on file, you need to send us a signed letter on company letterhead that states both the new and the old registered address. Quick example image of it here, but we need to know, hey, we moved from address A to address B, and this has been signed by a director level person at the company. Sounds complicated, it really isn't. We just need proof that the business is what you say it is and that it's continuing with the same registration number. Again, this is all because these are legal documents that you're signing when you're doing a legal customer with Google, and we need to make sure that all this information is correct and secure both for us and for you. If you want to change the company name, we're going to need a doing business as form. So essentially the same thing as changing the address. You need to verify the current name that we have in the legal customer as well as the billing address. And we need a signed letter on company letterhead showing the name change, or a doing business as form. A DBA form is actually a form that you file with your local state or federal government saying, hey, we used to be called Whitney's Company, now we're called Whitney's Business, and making that change on the legal customer end. Okay, so the fun stuff, overdue invoices. I would bet that 95% of everybody that's watching right now has had an account go dark due to going to collections. Technically, an account could get suspended anytime it's past due. If you have 30-day net payment terms and you pay the invoice on day 31, that account is eligible for suspension. One thing to keep in mind when it comes to collection suspensions is that if you have 10 AdWords accounts on the same legal customer, so sharing the same line of credit, and one account is overdue, technically the whole legal customer can be suspended. So all 10 of those accounts can go dark, even though only one was past due. So this is one of the benefits of using a consolidated bill, making sure that you're paying all of your accounts in one fell swoop. You do get 2 warning emails that are sent out to the contact on the legal customer, letting you know that the account is overdue. So definitely make sure that your billing contact is up to date on the legal customer end. And the final warning is approximately the last Monday of the month. But again, even if account is 1 day past due, it's still eligible for the collections period. Although that process tends to happen later in the month, I would really, really urge you all to keep an eye and make sure that you are paying those invoices correctly. One quick note and a word of advice from somebody who's seen it happen many, many times. If you're having issues getting your payments applied to the correct invoices, please make sure that the invoice number is very clearly stated on the check or the wire transfer that you're sending into Google. It makes payment processing a million times easier and also helps ensure that if you're paying invoice A with check B, it gets applied to the right one. If you are paying multiple invoices on one check or wire transfer, first off, don't do it. If you absolutely must do it, you're going to want to send an email to pop-na@google.com. That's pop-na@google.com, short for Proof of Payment North America, and list out the invoice numbers and the amounts that you want applied to each invoice. You're going to want to do this the day you send in the check or the wire transfer. That way you can make sure that things are applied correctly. And I do want to make a note that the onus is on the account owner to make sure that payments are applied correctly. So if you're seeing a lot of issues with this, just take the time to write the invoice number on the way that you're paying your invoices to us and remitting those payments. It's going to make life a lot easier and really prevent this from happening. What happens if you do go into the suspension cycle though? Pay your invoice ASAP. Kind of self-explanatory. The sooner you pay it, after getting your first warning, the less likely it is that you're going to still be processing that payment by the time the account gets suspended. Once you do pay via check or wire transfer, and I recommend wire transfer because it's quite a bit faster, you're going to want to send proof of payment to that pop-na@google.com email address or collections-a@google.com. So these are obviously North America specific email aliases. There are other ones for other regions, and you can find those on your specific regional help centers. I really recommend contacting the customer facing teams above first. Support if necessary, if you need to call or chat in with a question about this. Those email aliases tend to be prioritized externally versus internally. So you will likely get a faster turnaround if you go directly to those teams via email, as opposed to reaching out to your Google team and then them reaching out to that secondary team. You skip the middleman, you get things going a lot faster, and you're much less likely to have things take longer to get turned around and get those accounts live again. So you should expect the account to go live within 12 to 24 hours of receipt of the full proof of payment or the payment itself. Again, emailing that proof of payment gets things going quite a bit faster. You do get priority with those email aliases. One thing to note here is if there are any issues with an invoice that you see right when the invoice is generated, please let us know as quickly as possible. We'd rather not have an account go into the suspension cycle and instead get the right PO number on an invoice or have it mailed to a different email address so it can actually get processed. So you know how accounts and billing is processed within your company. Let us know so we can make sure that things are as easy for you guys as possible. Okay, cool. So let's see if there's any questions on the community page right now. Let me go ahead and pull that up. Okay, you guys are quiet today. Cool. So since there's no questions, feel free to add any additional ones. If you have any at the end on the community page, we'll be keeping an eye on it. I also cannot recommend our other resources enough. You can tweet us, you can email us, you can chat us, you can call us, or you can check out our help center. It's really amazing. I use it multiple times a day, despite doing this job for years, to look up answers to questions. Cool. So thanks for bearing with me as we went over some of the brutal, necessary basics of billing. You know, it is very dry, or it can be, but billing is the backbone of an account. If we can't bill it, those ads aren't going to run. So it's something that's worth taking the time to make sure that you guys are doing it right on your end for your clients and also for your agency's sake. And feel free to join us at the same time next week. I'll be joined by my colleague, Tanisha, and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of ad approvals, another fun topic for you all. Thanks so much.